The word apocalypse doesn't mean the end of the world. In the original Greek, it meant something very different. It meant a revelation.
All right, so today's guest is Stuart Buchanan, former Australian Army infantryman and SERE instructor, and the author of Dragon Rising. It's a post-apocalyptic novel. It's grounded in real-world survival. Stuart, we appreciate you taking time to come on with us tonight.
No, thank you for having me. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. No, we're glad to have you. This is exciting.
Yeah, it is.
So give us an overview of your background. How do you go from infantryman to SERE instructor to a post-apocalyptic fiction author?
All right, so I joined the Army at 19, did 12 years infantry in the Army, in the full-time Army, and then I got out of the Army, got sick of deployments and stuff, and joined the Queensland Police Service, and then went to transfer to Army Reserve. And then when I was in the Army Reserve, there was an opening for SERE instructors over with the RAF base at Combat Survival. And it's basically reverse engineering everything I used to do as an infantryman, hunting these people. And so I grabbed the opportunity, went over there, and then learned heaps in that field in relation to SERE and everything else and how to survive. And then I guess I've always just been a bit of a prepper and love that sort of idea that just be ready to go and not be a victim, I suppose. So that's how I end up, through the SERE side of things. And then that just led into the rest of my life. And then book-wise, I sort of had an idea there, and my mate who's an author pushed me. So I wrote it and off we went, yeah.
I'm always intrigued by the journey that people take from where they are, because I've gone through something similar where you you have this idea and you think that it can happen, and it's sometimes a bit of a leap in our minds to say that we can take it from idea to actually putting pen to paper and going to really publish a book. So well, that's very cool.
Really, it came about because we'd spend end up being high patrol because I got sick of going to like the domestics and the dead bodies and everything else. And you have plenty of time to talk. And lots of mates were like, oh, you're a bit of a prepper, but, why do you worry about that? Surely in Townsville we're safe in North Queensland. And that's what I said to them, like, we've got the biggest military base in Australia. We've got an Air Force base. We've got a port that can handle Navy ships. I said, like, we'd be a prime target. And that's where the premise for the book came from about what would I do if we were invaded and then I needed to get my family to safety. So,
yeah. It's funny. That's a common theme that I find. The word family comes up a lot in my conversations because when people that are, and I always say that, people that don't have anything to lose don't think a lot about prepping, right? They don't think a lot about what's going to happen. It's the people that really have something to lose. For the people that don't know what it means, what does SERE stand for?
Survive, evade, resist, and escape. So that's just basically the mantra for these people to have a mindset to do what they need to do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I like to think of it as almost like industrial grade prepping, right? It's like we have weekend warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is a real deal.
But they even talk about, they get into the nitty gritty and talk about like the rule of threes. I don't know whether you've ever heard of that, and like 3 seconds, the will to live. So you've got to have a positive mindset. And that's what they said. Like you can basically lay on the ground and curl up and die. Like 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 hours, like you're looking at wounds, like breathing and stuff for 3 minutes, 3 hours, water, food, all that. So you run through and try and teach them a mindset to not just give up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's more mental. You think it's more mental or physical when you think about SERE training and survival?
It's a big mixture of both. I guess we saw people who had all the knowledge, but they never really disconnected from or been alone with their thoughts. So you put them out in field by themselves, because we'd isolate them and have them for 3 days by themselves to set like in a permissive environment, so where there's no enemy chasing you, where they had to tick off things and set up a camp and a shelter and have a fire and source water and everything else. And like you go in there sometimes, and there's guys that were like fighter jet pilots in tears because they just alone with their thoughts, sitting there dwelling on stuff. And that's, you try and tell them, like, just think of something else to do. Like you're a fighter pilot or you're a pilot of some description, you have a checklist, just make a checklist and go off that and occupy your thoughts so that you're not just dwelling on everything and falling apart, because then they lose that will to live sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's funny that it interests me sometimes to think about how much we think we're prepared, right? Like
Yeah.
you think, and I say, as you get older in life, you realize that you think that you know all these things that you realize you don't. I think being
No.
prepared to take on some, I was an EMT once and I thought I wanted to be an EMT. And I went through the whole training and I got my
Yeah.
certification. And the first time I pulled a dead body out of a car, I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do this anymore. This is not how I want to live my life.
No, and that's it. Some things can be a big eye opener, yeah, in relation to stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. I like the idea of SERE because I think it prepares people mentally for what this actually looks like.
I struggled because how do I say this politely and nicely for me? I was like a firebug when I was little. I loved lighting fires and doing all that crazy sort of stuff, running around in the scrub. And then there's guys in their 20s who have never lit a fire like with even like a lighter or matches, let alone with a flint and stuff like that. Like it's just like what? And
Yeah,
so for them, like it was like a big chest beating moment. Like they get a fire lit and they'd be like, "Oh my god!" I'm all that is man. And it was such a fun thing to watch these guys that actually realize they could do stuff. So, yeah,
yeah, that's interesting because it's people's background plays so much into that, and I agree. I mean, I grew up in the hills of West Virginia,
yeah,
and it is rural as all get out here. We
yeah,
grew up 60 miles away from a grocery store, so you do stuff like that. My dad drugged me through when I was 4 years old. I was drugged through the woods in every situation you can imagine,
yeah,
and it's like that's how you grow up. You're right. You're
yeah.
building fires and you're living in a tent, and you realize someday when you wake up, not everybody lived like that, and
No,
it's
some
it's a
people live in a
it's a
big
shock.
city. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they don't know where to get water from that's not out of a tap or a bottle. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It really kind of brings to light, I think, why, I always look at prepping and I sort of ignored it for a long time because I thought
Yeah,
this is just kind of how I live my life. It's not really prepping. It's just how I live.
yeah.
And then you wake up one day and you realize not everybody does that. So I think that's a really good point.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
And I guess it's interesting because like in both careers, but more so my policing and like you see like if people watch all these movies or like read your book and go, how does it society fall apart so quick? But it doesn't take much. Like I watch the news and see stuff in America where there's still policing and that, and there's rioting and stuff happens over here. And this is when government's in control and everyone's still got everything going on. And like I don't think people
Yeah.
realize how quickly stuff can fall apart and your world can crumble. And it just
Yeah.
interests me so much to watch it all. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah. No,
basically see people and say, "You'll be a victim."
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. In my novel, it falls apart really quick too. And I
Yes.
think people, the same thing. It's like, wow, we went from 0 to 60 really quick. And I read somewhere one time where somebody said, the human animal is tolerable until it misses 3 meals,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
3 meals in, and you get a whole different animal.
Well,
So,
to give you an idea, so this is a policing story, how quickly people can turn. Like we went to, like it was like an 18th through 21st party. So there's a lot of young drunk people there. And there was two guys fighting in the car park. There was four police officers. We turned up, we separated them and everyone was like, cool, they're ruining the party. And then one of them, I think, swung a punch at the police officer. We sort of scuffed him to the ground. And then the crowd turned on us. And we had like there was the three of us guys with our backs against the police car, with all these guys coming at us, and the girls in the back were like, "Kill him, get him!" And we're like, "Holy shit!"
yeah,
2 minutes ago, you lot were pleasant people that were happy to see us there, and next minute we're fighting for our lives, and it's like just turned in an instant.
yeah, yeah. So what
Yeah,
does that compound that by 1,000 when people haven't eaten and they're scared and
yeah.
they're
Internet and everything else, yeah. And I
interesting.
don't think people can really fathom that. They don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
I think
yeah.
the attrition right out of the gate, I think, is going to be huge. I think the number of people who fall off very, very I think you're going to separate the wheat from the chaff really
Yes.
quick. And I
Yeah.
think that's
Look,
just inevitable.
I don't tell people all my plans. I said to guys, I know I spot the hills, and I've got a bunch of mates that are like, well, you're going to have like a line of cars following you whenever you duck out of town if something falls apart. I was like, oh, goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. You and
Yeah.
everybody that didn't prepare very well.
Yeah, they're all going to be following me. So, yeah. So I just found it very, very interesting that people think it's I don't know, like a bit of a crazy thing. And I can't believe you're doing that. It's like, well, I can't believe you're not sort of thinking
Yeah.
about contingencies and plans.
One of the guests that I'm trying to get on the show at one point is a Katrina survivor, and I really want to talk to them about, the Hurricane Katrina. Yeah,
Yeah.
like what does it look like when things go that bad that quickly in a city? So I'm really
Yeah.
interested in doing that one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's it. And they find out very quickly how badly things can go. Like we
Yeah.
had really bad flooding in 2019 where most of Townsville was underwater and I'd spent days like wading through water helping people out. But then it turned to stopping people from looting and because people like, oh, well, there's no one in these houses. I'm just going to go and take whatever I can. And it's just like, holy crap. Like how can you turn that quickly on your neighbors and fellow, dwellers in here? So yeah, it's crazy how quickly
Yeah.
people can sort of dive right into madness.
So you've lived survival training. What do you think, so from a post-apocalyptic fiction, what do you think most stories get wrong? What do stories get wrong about this genre?
Oh, geez, that's a really good question. I don't know. That's probably something you'll put me on the spot. I don't know if they get it. I don't know if they get it wrong as such, but I get they for the story they'll focus on sort of one or two things and not the overall everything that you sort of need to encompass. So I guess yeah, it's really hard to say. Some of them get it completely wrong. Or they're like you need this or you need that, and you don't need. Well, you don't need food and a bed straight away. You need other stuff. But I guess it's just their spin and their focus might be different to what other people would see as the needs and stuff like that, depending where you are. Like if you say you're in a big city, you're going to probably not need as many skills as you would out in the scrub because you've still got that
Right.
infrastructure around you. So
Right. Yeah, and
yeah,
I guess the type of book also tends to play into it. My book tends to be a little bit more literary, so it's less. We're not talking about the specifics of maybe every survival scenario. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah. No,
I guess
that's
it's everyone's spin on it, but for me, if you sort of read through or watch movies and just sort of pick out the pertinent points, it's great because it gives you a good template for what you might need or what you might need to do to sort of continue on. Yeah.
what do you think the first 72 hours looks like? Let's say something bad happens tomorrow. China invades tomorrow. What does the first 72 hours look like? Look
Ah,
like to you?
geez, I think that'd be a lot of panic, a lot of people trying to flee, and so that, for me, that'd create like as you see in all the movies and the books, like just log jams of vehicles, choke points. They get in each other's road. You'd have that. Then you'd have the opportunistic people who would see it as a chance to settle old scores or take territory or whatever. And then you'd have some people who wouldn't believe it. Like I think I don't know how far you read into my book, but at one stage they walk
Mhm.
past the backyard and they're still just having a barbecue. Like, oh, well, you
Yeah.
know, they just, I guess, don't believe that it's all unfolding around them. So the first 72 hours would be hectic, and like you said, it'd sort out the wheat from the chaff there. And you'd certainly see a lot of attrition very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
I always think it's interesting in my mind, like what that crossover would be. Like, at what point do most people stop believing that the lights are going to come back on? At
yeah.
what point do people actually accept that this is, and how long will it take some people? And I think that's really interesting to think
Some
about.
of them too long, and then by then it's too late. Like it's yeah,
Yeah.
they've waited too long to do stuff, and
Yeah.
well, they've got no plans, no access to the internet to figure out what they need to do. And I think that's a big thing. Like wonderful that we've got such an age that you can sort of dive in and just Google whatever you want, but you take that away, and a lot of people are going to be screwed. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think that's a good point. You talked at one point about different scenarios and different plans for different scenarios.
yeah.
How should people think about that without getting overwhelmed? So just, there's all the gear and all the bags and how's the best way to organize that without getting overwhelmed, do you think?
I guess for a lot of it, you could still have a pretty much the same setup. It just depends on sort of what you need. Because I think anything, if the world, like if we're invaded or the world, like if something crumbles or like you have the ash cloud, you're still going to need all your basic necessities and I guess somewhere safe to go that you can sort of be with your family or your close people and that. So I think for the most part, it's just having a plan in place and knowing sort of what you might do. And I guess it just you'd have to just tweak it slightly for different scenarios. Like for me, like if China invaded and were trying to take over the towns, well, I'd be heading for the hills. But then if it was something, coming from inland, I'd have to go a different way. And you sort of just tweak what you're doing
Yeah,
to go for the thing. But you've got to have a base plan, I suppose.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like in
yeah,
my car, I've got fire starting gear, water purification stuff, axes, everything you'd need to basically just pull off and start setting up a camp somewhere. And for
right.
me, that's normal. Whereas other people think I'm a bit weird, but I'd rather be prepared than not. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. When it hits the fan, I think that I would definitely prefer to be
yeah.
thought a little weird than be
Oh, like
unprepared.
first aid kits, tourniquets, bandages, snake bite bandages, all of that sort of stuff. Like Australia, we've got so many venomous snakes. You need to have at least a thought for something like that because yeah, you're
Yeah,
going to be in a
no,
lot
that's a
of
good point.
yeah.
The regional differences are interesting. Yeah, yes,
Yes.
yeah. What
Yeah.
what what specifically you need for the right environment?
Well, I think we got what 9 out of the top 10 venomous snakes in the world in Australia. So
Really?
that'd be a big one that you'd need to have a thought about that because you can't just duck to the hospital.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I never thought about that. I never thought about you guys being kind of
Yeah.
inundated with the creepy crawlies. Yeah.
Oh
Huh.
yeah, all the creepy crawlies and the crocodile. Like up here, crocodiles and the box jellyfish in the water. So we've got so much that can already go like kill you. So yeah, you sort of got to prepare for that as well. along with everything else
Yeah.
you might need. And like up here, like we've probably not rained much today, but we've had solid rain for the last, 6 or 7 weeks. So you
Right.
need
Right.
to think about that for fires and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So there's lots to consider.
I was reading something the other night and was talking about that this is seasonality, in West Virginia. So our seasons are
Yeah.
drastic. In the summer it's 100 degrees, in the winter it's 16 below zero. So it's adjusting your plan for that. You can't have the same bag for
No,
every season.
not for that. See, where I am, winter, a bad winter here, it might get down to 10 or 15 degrees Celsius. So it doesn't even get near freezing. So, but everyone whinges it's cold, but completely different to where you go in the minuses. So you'd have to have a lot more warm stuff and everything else. Yeah. Makes a bit of a
Yeah.
huge difference on your planning. Yeah.
Always wonder if people should just as a preparedness measure, just like go outside and try and live outside for 2 days.
Big
Just
time.
just go out. Yeah. Just like leave the house. Go do it.
But even just take a tent and go and just pitch it somewhere and just try and light a fire. And like all
Mhm.
my three kids used to whinge about, but we'd go and I'd make them light fires with a flint and steel. And they're like, no, you need to
Mhm.
practice this because one day if it's, and they always like, oh, dad, but they can all do it now. So if they needed to, like
Yeah.
it's like riding a bike, they could just go and learn how
Mhm.
to redo it all again. And as I said,
Right.
look, it's just a skill, just another
Yeah.
skill
Yeah.
to have.
Just yeah, something to have in the toolbox, in the mental
Yeah.
toolbox that you know that you can do it.
Yep. So every time we went camping and there was a fire, it's like, well, who's lighting the fire today? And this is what we're
Mhm.
using. Yep. And that's it. Just go
That's
and camp
awesome.
and just try it. Teach them where to get water from and to boil it and purify it and all that other stuff. It's just basic. For me, it was basic necessities.
Absolutely. I remember one time I was on a camping trip with my dad, and I was probably 5, 6 years old, and we were for us, we were kinda out in the bush, right? We were we were away from everything, and it felt to me like we were 3 or 4 days from everything, but we were probably not that far. But I got
Yeah.
up early one time, and I tried to light the fire by myself, and we only had so many matches, and by the time he got out of the tent, I was down to, like, 3 matches left, and we
Yeah.
had 3 days left, right? So now every fire you make has to be hit on the first match. You
Yeah.
don't have a fire if you don't. And that was it
Yeah.
because I'd accidentally wasted all the matches. So I look back on that and I'm like, wow, what a learning experience that was to
Yeah.
have to really face that. You're not going to have a fire tonight if you mess this one match up. So
Well,
yeah.
interestingly, so to become an instructor on the survival courses, like you do all your instructor training, and one of the ones is they have like a 6-inch log that's I don't know about that round, and they'd sit it in the bottom of the river for 3 or 4 days, so completely soak it through, and they give it to you and say, "All right, start a fire," and you're like, "How the hell am I starting a fire?" But like they teach you, but if you split it all the way down, in the middle there's still some dry timber, and you get shavings from that, and then you work back out, so you start the little fire, and then you put
Ooh,
more and more on, and it'll eventually burn it all. You're ex-military, you don't understand what a cups canteen is. Yeah, so you had to be able to boil one of those on the fire. So, but you could split it
right.
down, and I was like, oh, okay. And as I said, usually doesn't matter how wet timber is. There's always going to be a dry bit somewhere in the middle that you can get to. And it was just for me that was oh, okay. I didn't understand that you could actually do that. So yeah, it's interesting
Oh, I
to
like that.
yeah,
Yeah. I like that.
yes,
That's like a metaphor for life, right? That's like
yeah.
no matter how wet your timber is, there's dry wood in there somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah,
If it,
you
it's
can still get the
perspective.
job done. Yeah, yes, and that
Yeah.
was very interesting. Like we managed to light a fire in the pouring down rain with a flint and steel. Just by just doing things a bit differently. So yeah, it was very interesting to see that you can do this stuff if you put your mind to it and you've got just a little bit of knowledge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, very cool stuff, very cool
yeah.
stuff. What do you think about gear? Do you think gear's overrated? Do you think what do you think when it comes all the plethora of gear out there today? What do you think about that?
Look, I think they really play to people because they're like, this is perfect for this or that. At the end of the day, if you've got a backpack that you can jam some stuff in, you can be fine. You make it work. I think there could be too much gear, like because especially now having a bit more knowledge. And I go to like our big stores and you look at some stuff and you go, oh, like that. Just to me, it's overcomplicating something that can be a lot more simple. Like I do like some stuff they're doing, but a lot of other stuff, it's just I guess it's a gimmick that they seem to think that they're going to get money out of people.
Yeah,
Especially
yeah,
up here, like they go, "Oh, there's a cyclone coming. Are you prepared?" And then they're like, "Hey, how about this? How about that?" And people are like, "Oh, maybe I need that." So yeah,
yeah, yeah. Everything is an opportunity to sell retail
yeah,
goods. Everything,
yes,
everything. They
yeah.
they scare us to death with weather. There's a blizzard coming, and and everybody goes and panic buys because they ran out of toilet paper during COVID,
Oh no,
and
it's
then
the
we get
same
like, yeah, yeah.
because
It's
one of the side effects
crazy.
was rampant diarrhea with COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there we are, everybody's scared to death we're not gonna have any toilet paper, so we're all
yeah.
buying like crazy.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
that's the thing. There's so much gimmick out there, and some of these things are so niche that they're only good for one thing. And you just go like, I don't get it, but some people think it's great. I'll have mates. that show me stuff, and I'm like, that's a bit pointless and useless, but sure, if it makes you happy.
Do you have the skill set to use it, and can you carry it in your bag, and is it heavy, and is it practical? And
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right. And I guess for me, yeah, like my background of having to carry your home on your back, like you can only carry so much.
yeah,
So you get as much gear as you want, but if you have to get off track and out of a vehicle, good luck lugging it all. So yeah,
yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
yeah.
Tell me about, tell us about Dragon Rising. What was the core idea behind this? Where did the idea come from?
I guess the big idea, watching watching the world sort of go to shit a bit, and I was trying to come up with a scenario that had sort of force it like a family man to really have to fight to get to his family. And I was like, natural disasters, this and that. And in the last few years, China's been, flexing their muscles and, trying to dominate more of the South China Sea. I guess for me, like, okay, well, Australia would be hard to invade because you're going to see them coming because we're sort of isolated. So it would have to be and as the book starts, they're like, hey, let's do a military demonstration and sort of show you what we can do. That's the only way they're
Right.
going to get close enough. And I guess you've got to have some bad guy, and they're the ones at the moment for me in this neck of the woods that are sort of scary. That I think that is biding their time. They'll take Taiwan eventually or whatever, and then whether they then want to push further out and do that. So that's where the idea came from. That like, okay, if they invaded, what would I do, and what would I do to secure my family's safety? Now, what would I be prepared
Yeah.
to and willing to do? So yes, as much as it's a survival story, it's also I guess what you're willing to do and the burden you're willing to take for your family to get into safety.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I think that's one of the most interesting things about this, I think, for me is
yeah,
what do we become, right? What do we become
yeah,
afterwards? What, as a human being, as a human species, what happens when this kind of pressure comes down on us, and what do
yeah,
we
yeah. Like you want to keep as much of humanity as possible, but you also need to do what you need to do to survive because there's going to be a lot of bad people out there just doing whatever they want.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess for me, yeah, trying to counter that, keep your humanity, but do what you need to do, and then you go, well, what, I'll have to deal with the fallout at some stage, but right now I'll just keep on
Right.
doing what I'm doing. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that's very, true. I think that definitely I am going to make it through the book in the next couple of weeks, I'm hoping. I have
yeah,
had 0 time to read. I've got so many books. That's what I didn't realize, I think, getting into being an author. I read all the time before I was writing, and
yeah.
now, like, every spare minute that I have that I'm not sleeping, I'm
Oh,
trying to crank out some writing. So
yeah. Like
how do you balance that?
oh, it's hard to balance. I've just finished writing the sequel, and then you're trying to edit that and read books for other people and live life and
Yeah,
spend time with my wife and kids and everything else. It's just like, yeah, there's not enough hours in the day. And
yeah,
I'm retired now, so I don't even have to go to work, but I still like, I don't know
yeah.
how to fit everything in.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's brutal, and then layer marketing into that where you're trying to get out in front of people and talk about your book, and yeah,
That for me,
yeah.
that's been the hardest. Writing was easy. Editing sucked. I didn't like that. But then
Mhm.
marketing and going from a new author, no name, trying to get your name out there. And I spent the last, 30 years in the army and the police not pushing myself on social media because I wanted to be a bit more anonymous. And now all of a sudden I'm
Right.
making videos and everyone goes, oh, they're so cool. I'm like, you don't see me nearly throw out beforehand. Like, you can do this. It's fine. Yeah. So marketing is
Yeah,
killing me, like having to put myself out there, and then you open
yeah,
yourself up to criticism, and then you get the
mhm,
imposter syndrome. Like, is it good enough? Am I good enough?
yeah.
People just lying to me to say, what they want to, what they think I want to hear. So yeah, there's a lot.
It is,
Yeah,
it's a lot, and you're right, I like it, I kind of parallel the experience of being an author to going out. So I used to, if you read the book and the guy on the fat bike, right?
yeah, yeah.
That was me. I love to ride
Oh,
bikes. I used to
yeah,
go out and bike pack into the wilderness and just, spend a couple days, and I love that because it pushes you, right? It pushes you out of
yeah,
your comfort zone, and it's
big
what we were
time. Yeah,
talking about earlier, get out and go spend a night outside and see
yeah,
what you can and can't do, and you learn something about yourself. And I think that's what I've liked so much about the author journey is it kind of mirrors that, right? It
yes.
makes you get on podcasts. It makes you get out and talk to people outside of your comfort zone. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I did a podcast in the last 2 weeks with a lady over here. Was like, she just wanted to do a story of my life. So it was 5 hour long episodes to get through it all. And I'm freaking out on everyone. Like, people don't want to hear about my life. I'm just Mr. Boring. She goes, no, you're not. But
Yeah.
and for me and the journey, I've been a lot. My mental health has been pretty trash for a lot of years. And I said, well,
Yeah.
look, I'm comfortable being uncomfortable even if it helps one person. If one person hears my
Yeah.
story and goes, you know what, I probably need to go and speak to someone. I said, then you know what, it's worth it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for me,
No, I
that's
think
the
that's
big
a
thing, pushing
fantastic.
pushing my book, and because in there's a lot about mental health as well, and pushing that,
Mhm.
and just trying to get the word out there that it's okay to not be okay, and you just need to talk to someone. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I
yeah,
think that's the connections that this makes and the fact that
yeah,
I'm sitting here in my basement talking to a dude that was a SERE instructor from Australia. I think that's
oh,
fantastic.
yeah,
I
it's
think it's
great.
so neat.
I
Yeah,
love it.
there's so many bad things about social media and the world and so much being connected that these are some of
Yeah.
the good things, right? So that's
Well,
cool.
there is like at TikTok, it's terrible because there's so many scams and everything else. But I've found a few genuine people. Like I've got a Nat Cotton over in England who's just released a second book. Like she's like, dude, when you come over here for a holiday, eventually you come to my place for a barbecue. Rob Leach in America, he was an ex Green Beret. Like he wants to come to Townsville and have a look over here, like just because of the videos. And you make some really good connections. You just got to filter out the other
Yeah,
garbage and the rubbish. But I
yeah,
found that the book talk community has been really good for like assisting
yeah.
each other and stuff like that. Yeah, it's been great.
I agree. I agree. I think it's a very cool thing. Very
Yeah.
cool.
That's it. Imagine the journey we'd have to take to see each other. And if there was no bloody planes, that'd be huge. You'd be getting on your
Yeah.
fat tired bike and going for a big ride.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Huge ride. Well, you're always welcome in West Virginia. If you ever decide that you want to come to the States and you want to come hang
Oh,
out in West
look,
Virginia, we'd love to have you.
we definitely want to come to the States at one stage. And there's so many now places I need to visit. I'm like, shit, I don't have to go for 6 months. But I'd love
Nice.
to come over and see where your story is based because I just love that. And I guess for me, that's why I started doing the videos in Townsville because it's one thing to visualize it, but then when you can actually see videos of the scenery that they're explaining in the
Yeah.
book. I was like, oh, okay, that's a bit of a niche thing. So I'd love to come
Yeah.
and see that where you've grown up and the little community over there. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have you. It's funny. I'm doing a podcast next week with a tourism department, and they asked me, how does you're an author? How does that connect to tourism? And that's exactly what I told them.
Yeah.
Listen, this is about real places. Like this is
Yeah.
about places. You get a significant number of people out here reading this, and it's absolutely. And I think we have to tell better stories about the places that we live. I think sometimes
Yes.
bad stories get told, and I think we owe it to ourselves to tell good
Yeah.
ones. So,
And look,
yeah,
so many people say that where we live, like crime's a bit rampant and stuff. They're like, oh, Townsville's a shithole and stuff. But there's still a lot of wonderful
mhm,
things here. Like, but they're, I guess, choosing to focus on the negative. And that's like anywhere. Like people can say, oh, it'd suck living in a small town that's 60 miles from a shop. But on the flip side, you've got so much freedom to do, what you want, a bit more relaxed lifestyle. And I
yeah,
guess, yeah, it's just how you visualize it and how you perceive it to be the big thing for anything. Like, I'd hate to live in a
yeah.
big city, but some people
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're the same way. Every now and then we get aggravated that we don't have this or we don't have that.
Yeah.
And the same thing. We look around and we go, well, we remember why we live here, right?
Yeah.
There's a trade-off to everything you do in life. And
There
so,
is. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like we've
Yeah.
been to Sydney and Brisbane recently for trips for stuff, and there's just too many people, too busy, too many people. I'm just like, oh, I can't do this. Yeah, so and that's I guess for me the reminder to this is why you're living. And Townsville's like 200,000. So it's not even a small place, but
Yeah.
it's enough that 20, 30 minute drive, and I can be in the scrubs, like being away from
Yeah.
everything. So yeah,
Yeah. No, that's nice.
yes,
Good stuff. Well, listen, before we wrap up, let's do a quick round of short questions. Just first
sure,
thing that comes to mind, right? So,
yeah,
favorite post-apocalyptic book of all time.
all time. Well, I'm going to say yours right now.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah, there you go.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank
like
you.
yours, because I've read it so recently. Yours, yeah, really, really good. So it's hard to put it all time, but I guess recently yours and I was an arc reader for the Siege of the Forgotten Order. Really enjoyed that one as
Okay.
well.
That
Yeah,
is definitely on my list.
yeah,
Definitely on my list. I
yeah.
I love what Garrett's putting out, and
Yeah,
I
but
definitely wanna
I
get to
guess
that.
more so because my little Dory brain doesn't remember a lot of stuff. I've read those recently and I really enjoyed them. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Like I read The Stand from Stephen King, and it was my
yeah,
favorite for a long time. And I got it I always remember I was stuck in a airport in Minneapolis, and
yeah.
I got it at a little bookstore in there, and I read it, and that was probably my first introduction to post-apocalyptic fiction, and
Yeah,
that's been 25 years ago,
yeah,
probably. So yeah,
yeah. And
cool
there's so
stuff.
many out.
Most realistic survival story or movie or show. Most realistic one that you've encountered.
Most realistic, I guess, just for shows that I like watching is the survivors where they actually go out and only take 10 items and stuff like that. So that for me that's pretty realistic. Like I don't know whether you've watched all of those, but Survivor in Patagonia, where it was freezing cold, and yeah, they're only allowed to take a certain amount of items. So for me, it just really shows the hardship and the isolation. And so I think those are really good if anyone ever wants to watch those, because so many people on those shows like, oh, I'm going to stay here forever and win the money, and they're one day in and they're missing their family and they go home because they're not used to
Yeah.
not having people
Yeah.
around them. So for me, for realism, even though it's reality TV and they are a bit, how's your father every now and then? For me, it actually does portray what it's like with the isolation and the struggle on how to get everything through the day: food, water, shelter, sleep, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, nice, nice. I've
yeah,
watched the Alone series a little bit, and
yeah.
it's the same thing. Like, it's really easy to sit on your
Well,
couch at
Alone,
home
not
and go,
Survivor. Yeah, no, Survivor's a game show. Alone was what I was thinking of. Yeah,
yeah, that's what it sounded like. I like those too, because it's easy to sit on your couch and go, come on, man,
yeah.
you can
What are you
last
doing?
another 3 days. Yeah, yeah. What's wrong with you? Yeah, I've watched those too. I like those as
Yeah,
well. Yeah, good stuff.
yeah,
Good
not
stuff.
Survivor. This.
Yeah, you were close.
I was
You
like,
were
no, this
close.
doesn't sound right, but I'll just run with it.
Well,
Yeah,
I got it. By the time you were the end of it, I knew what you were talking
yeah,
about. So
yeah.
that's good. You were describing it well. What's the most overrated survival skill out there? What's the thing everybody tries to do or buy or learn that they really don't need to?
I guess the most over it is just the gadgets that they try and sell you. Like you don't need a lot when you look at your basic survival skills, like something to start a fire. If you've got a fire, you can boil your water and stuff like that, like a knife or an axe. Yeah, I guess just they push so much gimmicky stuff out there, and for me, that's the big problem that just makes it hard for everyone. And then like the shows or what do they call them, reality TV stars that are like, look how easy this is, and it's not
Yeah.
that easy. So yeah, for me, that's the biggest problem
Yeah.
out there for all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It's a really good point. People saving money to buy a $200 knife when they
Yeah.
probably have a $30 knife that's going to cut the same way.
Does the
Yeah.
same thing. Or some of those expensive knives, when people don't look at it, like the tang doesn't go all the way through the handle, it's only narrow and it snaps easily. Because we'd say to people on our courses, we've got a knife. It's not flash, but it does the job. And other people bring theirs along and say, can I use this? And you look at it and go, dude, just do this and it'll snap. And they're like, oh, okay. So yeah. And they're like,
Mm,
this is a $300 knife. Yeah.
yeah.
Doesn't mean it's great. Yeah. They
That's a
bank
really good
on
point.
the name and stuff. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting perspective from, because I can think about it in theory, but to hear that that actually went on in training,
Yeah.
that's neat.
Yeah, and so
Huh.
we had a display. I don't do it anymore. I've been retired from that. But we had a display of all different knives, and some of them like your Gerber and all these bigger name brands that have still snapped. Like the tips have snapped or the handles
Yeah.
snapped and stuff like that. So that's what we say to people: like, you just look for a knife that's solid and it's going to work. It doesn't have to be a name brand.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now that makes sense. That makes
Yep.
sense. What's the most underrated survival skill? What's the thing that people aren't thinking about that they should be?
Well, I think probably just a positive mindset to start with. Like, you can achieve anything when you've got a bit of positivity. Don't just dwell on the negatives. And I guess a lot of people look for creature comforts when, like, if you're bone tired, like, and I think you're an ex-Marine, so you'd understand you
Yeah.
can sleep anywhere if you're tired. So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you don't need a bed, but just, yeah, I think that's knowledge base, but also understanding things like, I used to think when I was younger that just because a river's freshwater water's flowing, it's fine to
Yeah.
drink. But you don't know that there's a dead
Right.
animal upstream or the feces in the water and stuff like that. So yeah, just that little bit of knowledge, and yeah, but water is the big thing for me because I'm a sweater.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I am too. I am too.
yeah,
And my wife would tell you that I can sleep anywhere, even when I'm not tired. So
yeah, yeah,
she would say that I can lay down on a rock and go to sleep.
yeah. I'll whinge because my mattress is not just right, but I could still lay. Like, I could lay anywhere and go to sleep. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
one of those
Yeah.
things.
That's exactly right. When I'm in
Yeah,
bed, I'm like, ooh, I need a better pillow. But if I'm out, I'm like,
yeah.
nah, I'm good.
Because
Good. I'm
we
asleep.
get students who they haven't built a fire or anything else, but they're already looking at their bed. It's like, you don't need that yet. Like, it's
Yeah.
11 o'clock in the morning. You haven't got a fire, you haven't got shelter, but you're looking at a bed. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. Civilization collapses tomorrow. We're in survival mode. What are you going to miss the most out of modern civilization? What are you going to miss the most that you don't have?
Air conditioning.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's bloody hot up here. I guess you'd acclimatise, but just the ease of everything. Like, we're such a disposable society. Like, well, I rushed today because I was digging holes, so I just stopped at a Red Rooster and grabbed some lunch on the way home. That, I guess, that ease of being able to do what you want when you want, and
Yeah.
everything's pretty close by. So that for me, that'd be the biggest thing, that you'd just miss the creature comforts, but
Yeah.
then you get used to your new norm and then off you go. So
Yeah, I read that somewhere too. I read that the human animal is one of the most adaptable things in the
yeah,
world, right? That we can adapt to anything. You look at people that have survived as POWs for years, or you look at people
yeah,
that have, been alone on an island for a time, and it's like, wow,
yes.
we can adapt to anything. That's
It's
crazy.
just getting your mind sort of around that concept to start with, and then in going from there. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like
No,
everyone
that's
would bitch and moan about no internet and flowing water and stuff, but then you go, okay, cool. What can we do to different to fix that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Yeah, so then
absolutely.
for me, that's the big thing, that I just miss how easy life is. And being Gen X, like I grew up in a time when there wasn't internet and stuff like that, and we
Mhm.
survived. Like we,
Yeah.
had a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
old,
We made it. Like we
yeah,
made it. We made it. We made it through a world that didn't have all these things
yeah,
anyway. So
yeah,
we could probably go back to that if we had to.
yeah. If we had to, oh
Yeah. I'd still probably miss TikTok
yeah, that's
occasionally.
it. Wouldn't miss putting myself out there, but yeah, I'd certainly miss going and finding out all these new amazing authors and books and stuff. That's been fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah. The connections,
yes.
definitely. Definitely. Well, listen, Stuart, it's been great having you on. I
Right.
appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on and talk with us. Any closing thoughts for us before we wrap up?
No, just keep doing what you're doing and write some more books and keep putting yourself out there. I think it's great. And I definitely been telling everyone over here that this is the dude, you need to read his book. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate your support. I know that we're in a pretty tight circle of people out there that are doing this, and I
Yeah.
think it's great that we're in each other's orbit here, and definitely stay in touch, and maybe we'll hop back on and do this again somewhere down the road and see
Yeah.
how far we've came a year or so down the road.
See, if you're a big name author, I'm still just a little guy on TikTok. You
We'll
remember
see.
me. Remember me when
Yeah,
that.
we'll see where we land.
I'll-
You never know. You never
yeah,
know.
that's it.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on, and stay safe out there. Don't dig too many holes and overheat in your summer while I'm still in winter up here.
I wish it was winter here. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're the same way. We wish it was summer here. We're
Yeah, I
tired
bet.
of winter.
Yeah. Well, we don't get snow up here, so we don't really get tired of winter. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes
No.
sense. So we get.
Never seen snow. Only in the
Oh
TV.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Definitely. You need to come hang out with us for a little bit. We'll give you all the snow you can handle.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. Yeah. Maybe I'll
Yeah,
only sweat
good deal.
slightly, so that'd be really good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
Uh,
thanks for hopping on, Stuart. It was great to
no.
talk to you, and keep on keeping on. Stay safe out there. And if there's anything I can do to support your work, and I will absolutely do it.
All
I
right. Sounds
appreciate you.
good. Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
This has been After the Fall, conversations about post-apocalyptic fiction, science, and survival. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show and share it with a friend. And if you'd like to experience the story that inspired the podcast, check out my novel, Seasons of Ash. Visit johnmichaellane.com for more information.